I hear him. I see him. I know.
My man.
Bro, I'm so fucking tired. It's I look more stoned than ever. For whatever reason, my kids the last 4 days have been getting up at around 4:45 and just ready to go.
We got to get you smoking weed, buddy. I think it's the only solution to dovetail with your appearance, you know?
Yeah, my whole life I've always got that about the eyes. Like, oh, you got nice eyes, but you look like you're smoking like Jim Brewer. I go, I swear, not me. But yeah, man.
So this mug, Fight Island, am I ready? I'm ready for where my number's called, So this mug, this ESPN mug that I'm using right now,
yeah,
it was a gift to me by my former boss, Kieran Portley, the day I left ESPN, October 28th, 2011. And lo and behold, here it is, showing up out of the drawer. Look at that lettuce, Parker, huh?
Yeah. Oh, dude, this thing is I told you, if I don't come out of this looking better than Tom Hanks in Castaway, then I lose.
I'm sorry that I keep clearing my throat. I just ran like 4.5 miles, and it's catching up to me a little bit. So it's good to see you. We haven't done one of these in a while. Obviously,
I know, yeah.
I've been doing the weekly Instagram hit with Felder and the weekly podcast with you and Ken Flo and Longo and everybody else. But we were doing this pretty regularly when the UFC was live and popping, and obviously that hasn't been the case for 6 weeks.
Yeah, and listen, I could understand wanting to replace me with Felder for a little bit, but once the fight starts, I'm kicking the dragon out and the ducks back in. It's you know what though, I will say I enjoy that show. Even though selfishly I'd love to be speaking to you and Paul and Kenny as much as possible, but it's kind of cool hearing a guy like Paul speak, and him and I have actually had a chance to talk a little bit. And what a humble guy, man. And for somebody who I would say, and I'm not even just trying to blow smoke, he hasn't had the most, he hasn't gotten really lucky with some of these decisions, obviously. It's some major, his career could be in a way different situation. I just think he's taken it so well. And unlike a lot of other fighters, he has a long-term career, even on the analyst and in the booth, that he could really rely on, and maybe he'll make an appearance in the Cage Hero film at some point. Who knows?
There you go. Man, You're not taking long getting that Cage Hero plug out of the way. That's good. So we appreciate those of you.
It's too early.
Those of you jumping in here, a couple orders of business today, and this will be repurposed on the Anik Florian Podcast YouTube channel as well. But our right now pound for pound tournament, Ken Flo's brainchild, is that the right term? I don't know, but it was Ken Flo's vision, and we've had to expedite things, obviously, because the UFC is doing 3 shows between May 9th and May 16th. I'm going to have trouble paring this down to fewer than 20 predictions for you and Kenny over the next 10 days. So this exercise right now, we are going to get to some main card odds. But this exercise right now is actually a waste of your goddamn time. When you're getting a break from the children, you need to be studying film, because we don't need to lose to Ken Flo here in 2020. But the right now pound for pound tournament. So our final 4 was down to Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic and Khabib Nurmagomedov against Daniel Cormier. And I guess the UFC got a lot of things right, at least according to our fans, when it comes to the pound for pound discussion, because it was Jon Jones, 67.5% of the popular vote over Stipe, and it was Khabib Nurmagomedov with 57.5% of the popular vote over Daniel Cormier. So it's number 1 versus number 2, Jon Jones and Khabib in the final. AnikFlorianPodcast.com, you can vote, and we will tell you who is our or who is your right now pound for pound champion coming up this Monday. So that's the way it's sort of going down. I'll tell you my bracket real quickly, and then we'll move on to the real fights, Ian. So
sure.
Filled it out for fun. It was really fun seeing how some of those first-round matchups were made just circumstantially, with Francis Ngannou winning the 16 seed against Jon Jones, the 1 seed, and then obviously Volkanovski versus Conor, that 8-9 matchup, Khabib and Tony meeting in the second round, or the Elite Eight, I guess, for our purposes. But I had Stylebender over Khabib in the final. I had Stylebender finishing Khabib and winning the right now pound for pound tournament. So he was a 5 seed. I think right now, if it's a weight that is to be determined by the masses, and you need a fighter to win a fight to save your life, for me, it came down to Khabib and Israel right now.
Man, you know what? It's It was interesting. Yeah, I was a little thrown off with Stipe getting past that. Was that a Ray Longo choice? Was that what that
That was
was?
the Longo. That was the Longo bracket. So he gave Stipe the nod. Ray is he's not doing the exercise the way it was instructed.
I know. He's probably like, what are you kidding? Obviously, Stipe beats Henry Cejudo. He's a heavyweight. But
right.
Yeah, I didn't see that happening. I thought that kind of threw off my bracket completely. It's hard to pick against, in my opinion, Jon Jones overall too, because we just don't see his wrestling as much as we think we should, because he just doesn't have to. It's interesting. Against DC, I think is where he really showed it the most. And, in other divisions, he still has that length. He still has the striking. He still has the cardio. He's gone 5 rounds so many times. I would almost have Jones winning the whole thing, in my opinion, just because I think no matter where he goes in any weight class, his style, and he's just so well-rounded. It's what makes him, obviously outside of all the bullshit we see with him, if you talk about just the fighter, he's just so well-rounded. I don't know if there's anybody else who we can honestly say everywhere they've been as dominant. With Khabib, we haven't seen him, really like win a full-blown striking fight, where someone's protected themselves and not allowed him to bring him to the ground. If Tony and Khabib ever fight, which it's probably never going to happen at this point, who knows? It's just for some reason destined to not happen. If Tony could somehow keep that fight standing, is anyone going to really tell me that Khabib's striking is better than Tony's? No way, in my opinion. So, that's what made this pound for pound thing really interesting. I give props to Ken Flo, even though every time I said something, he shat on my opinion. But he's just jealous because I have better hair than him. I just hide it. So
I will say, walking out of that arena in Abu Dhabi last September when Khabib disposed of Dustin Poirier the way he did, you felt like you were looking live at the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world.
Kind of, yeah.
So again, anyone in the chat who's talking about Khabib destroying style bender, I respect any pound for pound take. It was never my favorite conversation to begin with, but I thought seeding the fighters creatively was a good way to attack it and kill some of this clock leading up to these UFC events that are now upon us. I'm sitting here literally buried in fighter cards and fight cards. We got 3 fight cards, obviously 9th, 13th, 16th. So some of those are still coming together. But UFC 249 looking strong to quite strong in front of me. So I want to get some just main card leans from you if I could. I'm going to throw some of these odds your way. Ultimately, what I want to determine today in the final 7 or so minutes that we have is which underdog on the main card would get a bet from you if you needed to pick an underdog right now. So I'm just going to read the main card with odds very quickly, if you'll indulge me, and then I will go from there. So pay-per-view opener, Greg Hardy minus 200, Yorgan De Castro plus 160. I was on VSiN in Las Vegas this morning, and I said I feel like Greg Hardy deserves maybe more respect from fans, but less respect from Las Vegas. He's minus 200 here. Yorgan De Castro is plus 160. Calvin Kattar, the minus 240 favorite at featherweight against Jeremy Stephens, who is plus 190. Francis Ngannou probably would be favored against any heavyweight in the world right now. He's minus 285. Jairzinho Rozenstruik plus 225. Henry Cejudo minus 250 versus Dominic Cruz plus 195 for the UFC bantamweight title. And the interim lightweight title fight, we've discussed these odds. Tony Ferguson about minus 190. Justin Gaethje plus 155. So your dogs are De Castro, Stephens, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Cruz, Gaethje. Which underdog do you like, if any?
De Castro, if I'm going to go underdog out of any of those. It's not a knock on Greg Hardy. I just think that in a heavyweight situation, a guy in De Castro who's shown he has hands, who's shown that against other fighters that have been aggressive, that even off his back foot, he could lay the knockout. I think Greg Hardy is a special athlete. Again, put all the stuff to the side. I know you're a supporter. You like him. I will say this: the way he handled, his first loss showed a lot too. Showed the maturation of his development of a person, I believe, within the sport. And I think that De Castro was more of the right path to go. But this is a dangerous fight. He's going to have to utilize those leg kicks a lot and slow down De Castro. Therefore, the power kind of gets slowed down a bit too. But Yorgan De Castro just kind of showed us that he's a sick fuck with some solid power, And I think this is a fight where if he lands, Hardy's going to go sleep, and you'll have a cool new star, fresh blood in that heavyweight division. Because then you're going to now have guys like Rozenstruik, where even if he loses to Francis, which we would probably think he does, he's still obviously, what has he been in the UFC for a year, And he's got this fight. So I think Yorgan De Castro is the underdog there. I know a lot of people are probably liking the Dominic Cruz underdog play. I know Ken Flo is all over that. I love Dominic Cruz. I think the story of him winning would be phenomenal. I just, be honest with you, I have trouble seeing him beating Cejudo right now. I think Cejudo is just at the top of his game. I think coming back from that Moraes fight, showed a lot in him. And if Dom uses his length, maybe, but I think Cejudo wins that fight. Sorry to jump into that one. I had a feeling that was going to be an underdog play,
But careful saying Ken Flo's all over it, right? Because that's misinformation, in my opinion, based upon what Kenny has said about that fight. I'm not saying that on our show on Monday, he's not going to pick Dominic Cruz, but for you to say Ken Flo's all over it, I don't know that he's all over Dominic Cruz and recommending that people go out and bet Dominic necessarily. I do think he'll probably pick him. Right? Am I wrong?
So no. You're way. There's a reason why you're the voice of the UFC and I'm not.
No. I love you, buddy. I'm just saying.
I love you too. The wording may have not been there. My thing is, I know that Kenny is going Dom. I don't know on a betting standpoint because I don't know if the odds have got to where us as gamblers feel comfortable. It's worth the value there. I was just saying that a lot of people in these situations sometimes buy into the story. Oh, and someone wrote, "Don't count Dom out." I'm not counting Dom out at all. I never count out Dominic Cruz. And that's one thing you'll hear me say for years, even now. I just think in a situation now when you're out for that amount of time, and again, I don't think that ring rust applies to someone like Dominic Cruz. He's shown that in his fight against, Mizugaki, right, when he came back and he flattened him. But this is a different situation. He's coming back and fighting essentially a current champ who I think is at the prime of his career. And I can't say that Dominic Cruz is at the prime of his coming off that type of surgery. I don't think anybody really can be with that amount of time. But listen, if he wins, amazing story. I still think Ken Flo will pick Dominic Cruz, but he might not be all over it, to your point.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. And I feel like Cejudo will be tied to a lot of parlays that you put down that night, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see.
It will. You know what? If I can, I will, because then if I get to that, I could always hedge it with Cruz, because that's the best part about a parlay like that. If you get to the last leg and your final guy is the favorite, it's so much better to hedge with an underdog than hedge with a favorite.
So we have fighter calls today. Within the next 3 hours, I will have talked to Ferguson, Gaethje, Cruz, and Cejudo, and we'll probably have a different lens looking at these fights from there. The one thing I will say about Dominic is that I don't worry about the layoff. I don't worry about cardiovascular strength or him physically. I just don't know if the speed is still there, right? And that's what I won't know until fight night. Will he be slow overnight? There are fighters that eventually lose a step, and I think his style is such that if he loses a step, when that happens, maybe when he's 39, 40, but when he loses a step and looks slower, I think it's going to be harder for him to win. But I do believe it's a more competitive fight than the odds suggest. I believe that as well about Hardy and De Castro. Cater and Jeremy Stevens, you think that's properly priced? Calvin Cater minus 240?
I think it's a little high. Listen, Calvin Cater, I think in that last fight against Zabit, if that was 5 rounds, I think he wins that fight. Zabit hasn't shown us that going past 3 rounds is in his favor, and Calvin's obviously showed his evolution of a fighter, especially with the cardio and everything. I hated it. It's at minus 240. I think it's a little high. I was hoping for maybe minus 200. I do think someone wrote, I got Jeremy. For the guy that wrote that, I love Jeremy Stevens. He's a pioneer. I do not see him winning this fight. Stylistically, this is a terrible fight, I think, for Jeremy Stevens. I think Calvin Cater is a guy to look out in the future in this division, absolutely. And he's a savage, bro. Those hands are devastating.
And by the way, that's Keith and Bray's mom. She's a good supporter of mine in the show. So
awesome.
You said that guy. So we'll say that young lady, I think, is probably a little bit more.
You know what? I saw I have a glare on my phone. I just saw the message go up really quick. So I apologize.
Well, no, I think 9 times out of 10, you're probably looking at a guy. So, another.
I should have been more gender fluid. My bad.
Another fight I was asked about this morning was Anthony Showtime Pettis minus 155, Donald Cowboy Cerrone plus 125. I mean, I would imagine for an MMA bettor like you're probably going to have action in some way, shape, or form on all 12 of these. Are you not?
You know what? The way there's a couple of fights that I'm definitely a little confused on. I'll say Jacare and Uriah Hall scares me at the odds. Listen, this is like when we bet football. Sometimes you see these odds, you're like, oh, this is such a trap. You get that week 3 and Patriots are only minus 6.5 against, the Dolphins, even though it's in Miami. And, it feels a little weird. I think even the Michelle Waterson and Carlo Esparza fight, you know, I'm surprised that Waterson's that big of an underdog at plus 140, I think, or plus 110. It keeps going back and forth. Yeah, but a lot of these fights, I think, have value in parlays. The Ryan Spann, Sam Alvey fight, top to bottom, this is absolutely wild. Sometimes it's a poison. It's a curse to have to bet all these fights because then you don't enjoy it as much. But, you know, this is we just haven't been out of the game for a while. So you got to get out, wet your beak just that much. I'm going to stick my face in a bucket of fucking water right now. So
if you go to, I think, bestfightodds.com, you look at some of the odds history out there. Michelle Waterson has been an underdog quite a bit in her UFC career, and obviously she's won a lot of those fights. So one number that jumped off the page to me, having just gone back and watched the first meeting between Vicente Luque and Nico Price, it was in Brazil, I believe. Luque handed Price his first loss. Luque was minus 285. Price was plus 225. Nico's a totally different beast, I think, physically and maturity-wise, fight IQ-wise. Certainly you can't take the fight out of the dog and maybe the style out of Nico Price, who is fond of saying that his style is his call-out. I understand Nico Price is going to Nico Price in there, but plus 225 and minus 285, that doesn't seem properly priced to me.
I think Luque's too high of a favorite there. I still like him to, and I don't want to get into everything. Obviously, now save some room for the show on Monday, but style-wise, I still like Luque in this fight. Unless, listen, if Nico Price, if there's a prop that he wins by up kick one more time, you know, I have no problem throwing some money on that. I still think, you know, what Luque showed me in his last two fights, that guys that knock people out, like a Mike Perry, like a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, couldn't knock him out, and he took a lot of damage in both those fights. Nico Price is a power guy as well. I just think that sometimes Nico Price does the Nico Price, and it scares me a little bit because I think if he fights a little bit, he can still be wild, but smart about it, you know? It just depends, man. Someone like Luque shouldn't be getting into these brawls. Someone who's got the technical boxing and he's such a good jiu-jitsu practitioner, it throws me off that he drops into that, you know, Gurgel syndrome, that George Gurgel syndrome, you know, because it kills me. It kills me when that happens. That Brian Barberina fight, that fight should have been a sub win for him instead of almost losing. So yeah, I'm throwing off on those odds for sure. I thought it would have been closer, being that Luque's coming off of the loss to Wonderboy and that, you know, split decision win over Mike Perry. So yeah.
All right. Well, we love all of you for hopping in here. Before I let you go, Ian Parker, Tony Ferguson minus 190, Justin Gaethje plus 155. Again, I'm not trying to steal the thunder from the Anik Florian podcast full show on Monday. But I think you're going Tony. What can you tell us here on Friday? What is today, Friday? Yeah, it's fucking Friday, May 1st.
Is it Friday? It doesn't, honestly.
Right.
Yeah, for me, I don't even care what day it is. It doesn't even matter at this point. Let's see. Tony, Justin. Yeah, listen, I still like Tony. I still think it's his time. I think Justin's one way to – here's the biggest issue that I have with picking Tony, although I'm still going to do it. He gets clipped in almost every fight, you know, at least recently. And if Justin clips you, it's scary. You know, he clips you, you go to sleep. Tony recovers really well. We've seen that, but we just haven't seen anybody really recover from Gaethje. However, I'm hoping over this time, Tony, you know, shifting gears from Khabib over to Justin, he's seen the style. He sees how Justin throws. You know, the knockout against Barboza was not your ordinary in the pocket. Barboza was standing back. Justin had his hand almost against the cage, and he threw like a wild right hook that just, if you hit it when the guy's backing up, that's where it is. I just think that if it goes past round one, Tony all day. We've seen Justin fade in the later rounds when you know, against the fight against Dustin Poirier. I just think it's Tony's time. And if it's not, then God just hates him. And I hope that's not the case, you know? Yeah. So I'm still rolling with Tony Ferguson. The fact that it's going up means that obviously there's some big players that keep betting it. I already bet it and I got it at minus 165 at its lowest. Yeah. You know, I would still take it at minus 190. Once it hits minus 200, it gets a little scary in a situation where if Justin clips him, we know what happens, or what we see can happen. So,
all right, I will address the Marvin Vettori fan before I get out of here. I'm a huge fan of Marvin Vettori.
I like Marvin Vettori.
If I could buy stock in him going forward at 185 pounds, I do think he's future top 10 guy for sure. But I got to go. If you do want to vote, by the way, and Ian Parker will wrap it up on the other side. If you do want to vote on the right now pound-for-pound final between the top two seeds, Jon Jones and Khabib Nurmagomedov, AnikFlorianPodcast.com. You can also go to the YouTube channel and vote there. You can vote on our social media platforms as well. And obviously a full episode coming up this Monday. OddsShark's Joe Osborne. We're blowing it out. These guys are picking every single fight. 12 predictions for me and Parker and Ken Flo on Monday. But I got to go. I got my first fighter call in about 3 minutes.
You got it,
And
bro.
I hope you have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for supporting the show. Love you. The Duck. Support the Duck. See you guys.
Later, bro. All right, if you guys want, I'll hang on for 2 minutes. I know there's a lot of questions. First off, shout out to Randy Costa. Hey, Randy, if you're listening still, if you're still on here, a lot of props. I read what you said the other day, how you're not going to fight until this is all cleared up. You're a smart guy, man. You got a bright future. Health first, because if you end up catching this thing, you'll be out for a while, and that recovering with that lung shit's terrible. All right, I'll take a couple quick. What's up? Dan, what's going on, bro? The Castro or Hardy? It's tough, man. I can't bet on Hardy in the minus 200 number. I like the Castro as an underdog, to be honest. What does it say? Hernandez or Holland? I don't know yet. Listen, here's what I'll tell you guys. We are a week away from these fights. I have a lot of film to do. So I promise you next week, you guys can DM me. I'm going to do this live show next week, and I'll give you guys all my bets. I do like Fabricio Werdum, though. Jake, I saw you just message that. I think this is the perfect fight for him to come back. Let's see. Look out for Omar Morales. He's a future. I like Omar Morales too. I think he's got a nice future ahead of him. He's an exciting fighter. Who wins overall? Henry versus Cruz. I think Henry Cejudo wins this fight. Guys, I'm not going to take as much as I see. Was it Josh and Austin? You guys want to jump in? I have to go in the next minute. During the week, I'll do a separate live and I'll bring you guys on. Right now, I like Cowboy Cerrone as an underdog. If I were to bet that fight, I don't know if I'm going to. I don't trust either fighter right now. If Cowboy's revved up, though, I think it's really an actual good spot. Pettis to take the rematch, in my opinion. Cowboy's done at the top level. Yeah, but I don't think Pettis is top level right now, to be honest with you. You know? I just don't. Is Marvin Vettori fighting? Jay, you keep writing about him. Does he have a fight lined up? If he does, I don't know about it. That's on me then, I guess. I know, the live chats are fun. I try to do as much as possible. I just don't want to waste your guys' time if there's no fights, you know? The Pettis Cowboy fight, I believe, is at welterweight. So when do we get Ryan Hall back? I don't know. I think the whole thing with Ryan Hall turning down the Ricardo Lamas fight, a lot of guys don't want to fight him. I have no idea. Yes, bro, May 9th. Marvin Vettori's fighting on the 9th card? I didn't see that. Against Carl Roberson? Is that what you're saying? Oh, thank you. I love Thanos. He said on the show he won't take a fight without a full camp. All right. Thank you, Cody, our chief marketing officer of the podcast, coming in clutch right there. And appreciate it. Yeah, listen, I think Marvin Vettori, I didn't know that Marvin Vettori, he's wrong. That's what I thought. It is the 13th card. That's what I thought. It doesn't even matter, to be honest. So Vettori versus Carl Roberson, I like Vettori in that fight. I think Roberson, very talented guy. I think he's just very confused on what his style should be. Guy with a wrestling background like that. And he gets tired quick. I think Vettori is a very talented guy. I really do. What happens if Michael Chandler joins the UFC? It would be awesome. He would be a great addition to the 155 division. Let's see. And, yeah, he fought well against Israel Adesanya. But, guys, remember, that was Adesanya in his first fight. Where the two have progressed in their careers, Adesanya is light years ahead of Vettori. Doesn't mean Vettori can't get there. You know, listen, not every guy becomes the champ, but he can still have a successful career. Let's see. Drew Dober is a wild fighter, too. Yeah, listen, Drew Dober, he's got a lot of talent. If he lands, man. Style Bender or Costa. Let's hold off on that fight for a little bit. Yeah, this is firing away. I love this. Ngannou and Werdum parlay, a good play. I do like that. I think Francis wins. I think Fabrizio Werdum definitely wins. Josh, I promise you I will bring you on, just not today because I literally have to go in 2 minutes. I have for those of you that don't know, I'm actually currently in the process of developing my Cage Hero series and movie possibly for Netflix. So I have a writing session with a producer in the next few minutes. That's why I'm having to rush this a little bit. So I apologize. So I'm going to actually jet. I will take your questions next week. So listen, we got the show on Monday. Obviously the Anik Florian podcast. Then on Friday, Anik and I will probably go live. If Anik's not available, I'll go with Ken Flo. And then when Ken Flo hops off, I will bring a few of you guys on for questions, all that good stuff. And then, we'll go from there. All right. Love you guys. You're the best fans in the world. You guys are awesome. Thank you for the support of the show. Who you believe running for the title? By the way, save your questions. I promise. Because I don't like answering these questions on the fly. I really like to give you guys the time and everything. So hold on. John Carlo, thoughts on Junior DeSantis? Sorry, I have a glare. My bad. Thoughts on single light heavyweight? This will be the last question. I really got to go because Junior DeSantis is a friend of mine. I think for him, if he's going to go down to light heavyweight, which I don't think is going to happen, I just don't really, I don't, unless he's doing it to kind of revive himself, I still think he has a place in the heavyweight division. I think he's just got to be smart, take bigger money fights instead of really believing he's got a shot at the title. All right, guys, have a great weekend. You guys are awesome. I will do my best to get all you guys on next week live with me. I promise. I love talking to you guys. I'll give everybody a couple questions. Absolutely. All right. Have a great weekend. It's the last weekend before the fights come back. What's to come back? Time to make some money, knock out these bookies. All right. And we'll go from there. Tune in Monday, Anik Florian Podcast. If you guys don't follow me yet, follow me as Ian Parker MMA on Twitter, Instagram. You guys can message me directly all you want. I'll do my best to help you guys with picks, win some money, all that good stuff. All right, guys. Love you guys. Have a great weekend.